Hi there. And it's a lovely morning. I don't know if you hear the tapping behind me or above me. I feel like I'm in the midst of a Geico commercial with a family of cloggers. Where it's coming from? I don't know. I've sent others to investigate. Thank God I live in an apartment house. Somebody should respond to the cloggers. Though, unlike the Geico commercial, no, I'm not selling you Geico at 15% off. So that's not in the cards. But you never know. Someday I may be selling something. Wasn't far-fetched when I was in business. But what I'm thinking about now is cheap speech. And what is it? And how is it ruining our democracy? Years ago, we had about 1 million journalists in America and many newspapers. They were in your communities, they were in your states, they monitored the congressional hearings, whether they were on the state or federal level. We got the news. If a cow was stolen or ranchers had no water, we knew about it just like that. Not so much anymore. Newspapers have become a dying industry. For me, when I want to read the news, I go to The Guardian overseas, the Financial Times first, probably read a little up on Israel and what's happening there, both sides of the coin, whether it's Haaretz or J-Post. I get the Jerusalem papers, and I get the Jerusalem Report. And then I'll go to the local papers, the New York Times, Post, and the Wall Street Journal. Where else do I go for my news? I go to ProPublica online. I go to the Marshall Project, which looks at incarceration, wrongful incarceration across the country, the Brennan Law Center, and, oddly enough, Scientific American. Great news stories in here about what's happening in our country. So, what do I mean by cheap news? Once the internet came in, people no longer relied on the newspapers, the printed press. The printed press's model was classified advertisements. Now, most of them go to subscriptions, so they're still surviving. But that doesn't mean you get news from everywhere, nor does it mean that we're getting a true record of what's happening in Congress. Used to be, every cabinet member had someone who was watching over that department, whether it was energy, the NLRB, the communications, the DEA. There was a dedicated newspaper person. No longer. Somebody asked me what changed when I was on Periscope. And for those of you who don't know anything about Periscope, Periscope was Twitter's live feed. I could turn on my phone, and it was really only for mobile devices. It was never on the laptop. So I could put on my phone or iPad, get the Periscope app, and I could listen to live podcasts all over the world. That's how over 2,500 followers found me. I was doing political discourse in 2015. Periscope launched in March of 2015. I was on it within 4 months. And it was an amazing tool for political civil discourse. That's what's missing. The civil part, the listening to both sides of people's opinions and truths about their political parties and what they wish for America. Two sides, two views. I was very careful. I didn't allow any hate speech, no violence against others, no sexual innuendos, and because I had enough followers, I had super fans who I delegated responsibility because over 400 people could sign up for the program at any one time, and I did this 3 times a week. We needed to block certain individuals, usually 1 or 2. And then what you did is you typed in the chat your questions, and I would answer your questions as they appeared. And my superdelegates would block anyone who wasn't being respectful. And we did this for many years. Civil discourse, listening to both sides of the aisle, Democrat, Republican, Independent, you name it. We even got people from across the way, from Tunisia, from England, from Canada, from all over. They joined us in civil discourse, talking about our government and what we the people wanted. It lasted for about 3 some odd years, and then Twitter decided our program must have been too civil. This was during the Trump era. We probably were not violent enough, divisive enough, anything but civil was in. And before you could say, click, our clickbait was off the air. I was no longer getting people to my sites. Twitter refused to tell my followers when I was on. Not only that, I lost my privileges to buy an ad to magnify my latest voice. I went to Twitter in New York City to complain, to no avail. Periscope, for me, was beyond my reach, and so was magnifying my voice. That was gone in favor of extremist rhetoric. So people think they got free will. They don't. The internet understands us better than ourselves, and what they do is they pre-select for you what you should be hearing. Civil discourse was out. The extremists were in. So much more clicking, so much more ads, so much more exploitation. That's what's changed. There's no more civil discourse on the internet. Now, the more lies you perpetuate, the more clicks you get. The more misinformation you perpetuate, the more denial you get of climate, COVID vaccines, and other issues that would help you make an informed decision as a citizen. When I spoke to my friend, who I've known since I've been on Twitter and since I've been on Periscope, and she said to me, I think you changed. I think it's the other way around. She no longer can discuss her views on the Republican Party without becoming upset. But yet, when we both talk about how do we feel about what we want for America, we're pretty much on the same page. We don't want to see children murdered. We want kids to have a good education. We want childcare for families. We want the same things. But she's on one side of the aisle, and she thinks I'm on the other. I've never been a staunch party person. Not ever. I like facts, and I vote according to who I think is best for my state and for my country. And right now, if the Republican Party is going to be an extremist party, I could never vote for them, not even a little. When I read Scientific American today, it was interesting. They had a great article on science and science books coming out of Austin, Texas. No more are kids being taught science as science by scientists. Nope. The oil and fossil fuel industry owns the textbooks. They craft the language around climate change. So it's no wonder there's denial of climate change. They're still doing it, even though our world is burning up. They don't care. It's the short-term profits that matter to them. Free speech? It's not free speech when you lie, and when that lie causes violence. I'm sorry, and I don't want the federal government to be overruled. Overruled by whom? By the states or by litigation? And then who's the arbiter of last resort? The Supreme Court? I didn't vote for those guys and women. I don't want them as the arbiter of my life. The true arbiter is the federal government and what the federal government decides. It's not up to us to choose what laws we follow and what we don't. It's up to the federal government, unless we're a nation that has become a nation of anarchists. And I don't think that that's what Americans want. So I urge everyone, think. The ballots are coming up for primaries in August in many states for senators. You can't vote for guys who don't believe in the 2020 election or want to restrict our right to exist as human beings, who take away our very private lives and make them public so that they can criminalize them. No, sirree, I don't want that. I want a life where I can live in freedom. I don't care what anyone does in their bedrooms. I don't care what anyone does on the street, as long as it doesn't hurt me. That's my feeling, folks. And these cheap speech that we're getting from the internet, sooner or later, it's going to be regulated, just like it's being regulated in the UK and the EU starting in 2024. I'm going to find out about those regulations, and I'm going to delve into disinformation and misinformation so I have a better understanding of it. Because all I know now is that getting information off of selected silos is causing a divide in America that Americans can't afford. It's hurting us in our pocketbooks. It means we have a government that can do nothing. Governments are supposed to create law that make life easier for us. It's supposed to be seamless, not where everyone is at loggerheads and nothing's accomplished. So let's look at what we're looking at and reading and following blindly, because that's what it is. It's blind faith in something that used to exist and doesn't any longer. You don't have to believe me. Just think, how long has it been since you've had civil discourse with another person who you believe belongs to a different political party? Think about it, because I'm thinking ways of correcting it, maybe using Zoom. So take care, everyone. Have a blessed day, and see you next week. Guess when I said I might not be on social media so often, must have been a weak moment, because I've just gotten the okay on being cancer-free once again. And you know what? Even receiving good news has an effect on you for a couple of days. It was the anxiety of going to the doctor, getting the results, and then sighing of relief as I knew that I have a life ahead of me to lead. Think about yours as well. It's a good life if we make it that way. Bye again. Take care.